The writer to Chronicles is writing for the time when the children of Israel, that is, of Judah, were being re-established in the land after the Babylonian exile. And he is through history showing the choices that they must make. We all have a choice to make, whether to walk in the ways of the Lord or to walk in our own way and ignore what God has said. To walk in the Lord's way means that your way is prosperous, not necessarily in a financial way, but in the sense that it achieves goals and purposes. And if we walk in our own way, we may or may not achieve our own ends, but the end of the path is death and sorrow and tears for many. So the kings of Judah had that choice to make. Some of them chose to trust in the Lord, and we've just seen 3 chapters of Hezekiah trusting in the Lord, and because he trusted in the Lord, he drew his people to trust in the Lord. He opened the temple. He got the priests and the Levites back to work in their job, teaching the people about the Lord and offering the sacrifices, drawing the people to God. And the people came back to the Lord and got rid of many of the idols and high places, so that when a major challenge came and the Assyrians said, "Your God is no different from any other god," the God of Israel came good and destroyed the Assyrian army without Israel having to even fight an arrow. They just had to resist Sennacherib, and the Lord did the rest. But the risk is always there that we shall become proud. Uzziah became proud. Hezekiah became proud. When he was challenged, he humbled himself. When he was sick, he pleaded with the Lord to extend his life, and the Lord extended his life 15 years. 3 years into that 15 years, he had another son, Manasseh. And so we read in 2 Chronicles 33, Manasseh was 12 years old when he became king, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. But he did evil in the sight of the Lord, according to the abominations of the nations whom the Lord had cast out before the children of Israel. For he rebuilt the high places which Hezekiah his father had broken down. He raised up altars for the Baals, and made wooden images, and he worshipped all the host of heaven, and served them. He also built altars in the house of the Lord, of which the Lord had said, "In Jerusalem shall my name be forever." And he built altars for all the host of heaven in the 2 courts of the house of the Lord. Also he caused his sons to pass through the fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom. He practiced soothsaying, used witchcraft and sorcery, and consulted mediums and spiritists. He did much evil in the sight of the Lord, to provoke him to anger. He even set a carved image, the idol which he had made, in the house of God, of which God had said to David and to Solomon his son, "In this house and in Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, I will put my name forever. And I will not again remove the foot of Israel from the land which I have appointed for your fathers, only if they are careful to do all that I have commanded them, according to the whole law and the statutes and the ordinances by the hand of Moses." So Manasseh seduced Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to do more evil than the nations whom the Lord had destroyed before the children of Israel. And the Lord spoke to Manasseh and his people, but they would not listen. Therefore the Lord brought upon them the captains of the army of the king of Assyria, who took Manasseh with hooks, bound him with bronze fetters, and carried him off to Babylon. Now when he was in affliction, he implored the Lord his God, and humbled himself greatly before the God of his fathers, and prayed to him. And he received his entreaty, heard his supplication, and brought him back to Jerusalem into his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that the Lord was God. After this he built a wall outside the city of David, on the west side of Gihon, in the valley as far as the entrance of the fish gate, and it enclosed Ophel, and he raised it to a very great height. Then he put military captains in all the fortified cities of Judah. He took away the foreign gods and the idols from the house of the Lord, and all the altars that he had built in the mount of the house of the Lord and in Jerusalem, and he cast them out of the city. He also repaired the altar of the Lord, and sacrificed peace offerings and thank offerings on it, and commanded Judah to serve the Lord God of Israel. Nevertheless, the people still sacrificed on the high places, but only to the Lord their God. Now the rest of the acts of Manasseh, his prayer to his God, and the words of the seers who spoke to him in the name of the Lord God of Israel, indeed they are written in the book of the kings of Israel. Also his prayer, and how God received his entreaty, and all his sin and trespass, and the sites where he built high places, and set up wooden images, and carved images, before he was humbled. Indeed, they are written among the sayings of Uzziah. So Manasseh rested with his fathers, and they buried him in his own house. Then his son Amon reigned in his place. Amon was 22 when he became king, and he reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. But he did evil in the sight of the Lord, as his father Manasseh had done, for Amon sacrificed to all the carved images which his father Manasseh had made, and served them. And he did not humble himself before the Lord, as his father Manasseh had humbled himself. But Amon trespassed more and more. Then his servants conspired against him, and killed him in his own house. But the people of the land executed all those who conspired against Amon. Then the people of the land made his son Josiah king in his place. My name's Arthur, and I thank you for joining me as we see 2 more kings who chose not to walk in the ways of the Lord, as recorded in 2 Chronicles chapter 33. And we see how fickle the people are, that they quickly followed the direction that the king took. Leadership has a great responsibility, and people quickly follow the lead that is given to them. So they had quickly turned to the Lord in the reign of Hezekiah. But when Manasseh takes the throne and leads the people right back into idolatry, the worship of the heavens, the worship of images, even witchcraft, sorcery, mediums and spiritists, soothsaying, making his sons pass through the fire, they are seduced by the idolatry and follow after them. So all the high places that Hezekiah had destroyed, he rebuilds. Manasseh is the longest serving of the kings of Judah, 55 years. And he has the dubious honour of having shed more blood in Jerusalem than any other king. Well, the Lord humbles Manasseh. When you don't walk with the Lord, things go bad. Manasseh was taken to Babylon in bronze fetters. He knew about the Lord God of Israel. He had trusted these false gods, and they had let him down seriously. So he implored the Lord his God, and prayed to him, and the Lord heard him and responded to his prayer. The remarkable thing about God is that while we have life, we can always call upon the Lord. He is always near enough to hear our cry. When he prayed, the Lord brought him back to Jerusalem, and he set about undoing the things that he had done and focusing on protecting the city. For in chasing after the false gods, he had neglected the protection of the city. He cleansed Judah, and he told the people, only worship the Lord at your high places. But the ideas were in the people's minds, and their return to the Lord was superficial. They continued to sacrifice at the high places, but only to the Lord. Manasseh dies after 55 years. When his young son Amon came to the throne and went in the same direction as his father had done in the early days, there were people who were not prepared to accept that. His servants conspired against him and killed him. The people did execute the murderers, and Amon's son Josiah became king at age 8.